So the big question, does Ethan deserve all the content cop iDubbbz smoke? Well, folks, there's been quite a bit of talk since iDubbbz made his infamous return on his new, long-awaited episode of Content Cop, and oh boy, he came for his former friend, Ethan Klein of H3 fame, hard. For many returning viewers of Content Cop, last episode being close to a decade ago, this might be their first time dipping their toes into the Ethan Klein crash out drama / saga / harassment campaign. So some are wondering, how could a friend stab Ethan in the back and attack him so publicly, and even worse, doing so while teaming up with his sworn enemies? Well, the short answer involves the answer to another question. Is iDubbbz actually attacking Ethan with this video, or is he defending himself from Ethan's prior and ongoing public attacks? Well, the internet doesn't lie, and unfortunately it appears Ethan attacked his friend Ian / iDubbbz very publicly using very unsavory terms well before iDubbbz decided to respond with his Content Cop video. And other than the intro where they go on the offensive and have some fun at Ethan's expense, the video does simply seem to point out, with evidence, Ethan's nasty personal attacks on iDubbbz and everyone else that has disagreed with or dared to criticize Mr. Ethan Klein. And that's really just the whole story with Ethan. Starting around the time of October 7th, 2023, he has escalated his attacks on anyone that doesn't hold his same views regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. And the sad part is that instead of at least keeping it civil amongst his friends, Ethan started throwing low blows almost right away. It all started with him getting pushback from his own audience on Palestinian issues, and since there were some random people here and there online being nasty towards him, as there always is for divisive public figures like Ethan, he decided that was justification for him to get nasty towards his own friends, as if they had said or done the things that these random internet trolls had said and done. It's honestly ridiculous, and when people tell Ethan him or his fans are harassing people, he'll just say something like, "Oh, get over it, you pissed off some fans." So there does seem to be a big double standard or two for Ethan. Not only is Ethan wrong for his bloody scorched earth type of approach, but there's some pretty negative outcomes from taking this route as well. First off, he lost some pretty big friends. Now maybe those friendships were going to end anyways because of disagreements, but if that's the case, they certainly didn't need to end in such a public and destructive way that ends up with parasocial fan groups going back and forth fighting for extended periods of time and adding to the drama. Ethan is very aware of this dynamic, and he clearly uses it intentionally at times. The latest example was like just today or this week, him going after Dr. Kirk Honda of Psychology in Seattle. He did so publicly on his Instagram, and of course this led to his fans harassing him into taking down his video on the Content Cop and deleting his IG account. And Dr. Honda wasn't even mean to Ethan at all. It's just another example of Ethan smearing somebody publicly while embellishing the facts and acting like he was maliciously attacked when he simply wasn't. And then his fans brigading and bullying this nice doctor into silence. It seems Ethan isn't happy unless he can control the conversation around him completely. Secondly, it takes away from the larger discussion that Hassan and others are trying to have about Israel and Palestine. He's distracting from important truths about Israel. He's making the conflict somehow about him and his lived experience, which is what, a rich white guy from LA that got a free colonizer green card for Israel. Isn't that the perspective that's actively pushing Israeli government propaganda? Isn't that the perspective of colonization that we are trying to get people to wake up and reject? Is this not the belief system that led the country into becoming an apartheid state to begin with? Why does Ethan push this perspective as the important unheard one, while also claiming to be pro-Palestinian? There's just something fundamentally missing about his thought process, or he's just not being completely genuine about his beliefs. Ethan even said it on his live show shortly after October 7th, and paraphrasing him, he said something like, "Yes, I lived in Israel and have family there, so I am biased towards Israel." Yes, that's obviously true. Okay, so what? That's perfectly fine, but maybe your perspective isn't the only one that matters, Ethan. Maybe you need to do work, just like most of us do in the USA that have been exposed and fed propaganda for many years, and we all try to grow and maybe even evolve our perspective so that we can understand Palestinians better. But no, after Ethan admitted to having a bias for Israel, he moved on like that was just some non-important detail and acted like that wasn't something that should be kept in mind when considering where his views come from versus other views, and that others might have different, yet still valid opinions. And he certainly doesn't seem very keen on adjusting his views or taking in information that doesn't fit his preconceived narrative. He seems to react to differing views on this topic with one response: aggression. Thirdly, and I know Ethan gets mad when people talk about his mental health, but his approach is an objectively bad approach for his own mental health, as well as his wife's, his family's, his crew, everyone involved. He actively seeks out negativity. He doom scrolls on the Snark subreddit. He has been caught on both Destiny's subreddit and his Discord, sourcing posts and clips, even though they are regularly proved to be doctored or completely fake, or at the very least out of context. And what he does is he plays this whole delusional world-building game where his mind attaches all this negativity that he finds to one person like Hassan or whoever it is that day, and then feels completely justified but getting online in front of thousands of people and calling him a dangerous anti-Semitic terrorist. Why? Because me oh my, other people online said mean things about him. It's actually insane, and the longer he and his wife feed into this delusional line of thinking and attacking, the worse it gets. He seems to be having grandiose thoughts that he's going to be suing and winning against random Redditors online for posting 1-minute clips criticizing him, and suing Noah Samson for saying Ethan supports genocide. Ethan once won a big case for YouTube fair use, but now, when people online have turned on him a little bit, he seemingly has shifted into wanting to be the governing arbiter of not-so-free speech online, I guess. And as long as he throws in this, oh yeah, all these criticisms on me are actually for sure anti-Semitic, he gets away with it, and he just goes at everybody full steam ahead as if they just murdered his dog or something. Or at least he goes at them verbally. The legal threats are yet to pan out. I'll conclude with a comment from an Ethan supporter on my channel. I think this really illustrates Ethan's and his fans' behavior and how it mirrors other narcissists like Trump. It's just so easy for Ethan and his supporters to excuse or justify his comments and attacks, and even easier for them to embellish the facts about what his enemies and the quote bad people have supposedly done to him. And of course, they act like it doesn't matter who attacked who publicly first. What is in fact important for any altercation, who attacked first. Especially when it comes to the media, you have to defend yourself against smear campaigns, or they can grow into larger public opinion and ruin your career or your life. And when it comes to a rich bully like Ethan, who is beginning to get lawsuit happy as well, it really does take someone like iDubbbz standing up to him and letting him know there is consequences for attacking people in such a vicious way. They might attack you back. Anyways, let's see what this guy has to say. He starts off with, "I'm not a fan of Ethan, merely pointing out the patterns." I love this because this is always how Trump supporters start out, but I'm not a Trump supporter. I just think you should respect the president and never say anything mean about him. Have you gone and looked at smear campaigns yet? Narcissistic abuse? You know what narcissistic emotional abusers like doing? Using people's emotions. I love how this guy is demanding me to look up what smear campaigns and narcissistic abuse is, because I don't know what that means off the top of my head. And he's explaining it. And he writes everything one line, one sentence at a time, and then several spaces or tabs below it. So each line is its own profound paragraph. I've never seen such like holier than thou style of writing. Anyways, back to his using people's emotions. You've watched tons of H3H3 content? Okay, good. Can you explain to me exactly why he's a bad person that deserves to have millions of people berating him online? What precisely did he do? He called out some internet hypocrisy, insulted someone. Anything else? Propaganda? Okay, so what exactly has he said that's propaganda? Can you provide some examples? Anything else other than that? He started it? Started what precisely? You keep referencing his attacks. In plain English, please list off how he has attacked these people. Can you also include the context around why the attacks happened? Like what led... This guy makes a lot of demands in one comment, don't you think? This guy's bossy, huh? Like what led up to it? Like for instance, did Ethan call Denims a bitch for no reason other than to just be mean to her? Or did she perhaps say something that warranted criticism like that? Perhaps something about rape victims? So wow, that last comment is really something. This guy justifies calling denims a bitch over and over, as Ethan did, by implying she said something that warranted criticism like that. So no, calling her a bitch is not criticism at all. It's just verbal abuse in front of thousands of people. And this dude just co-signed that behavior as warranted criticism because Ethan said so. He said she is a bitch, therefore she must have deserved it, right? Just basic man logic, right? This is the mentality that Ethan is encouraging, and this was a public attack on someone for simply pointing out the false Israeli propaganda about there being mass organized rape on October 7th. There simply hasn't been any evidence to back up that claim. And if you disagree, that's fine. Provide your evidence, make your case, but don't start with verbally abusive attacks on your show, especially if it involves people that you supposedly consider friends. He followed the same pattern of attack with Frogan. He initially attacked her because she posted something about October 7th being a defensive attack. Ethan did not like that, but at the time, he didn't even know her really. He just knew she was one of Hassan's moderators. So, why not say, hey, this person comes from a Muslim background, has a different perspective than me. I might not agree, but I can understand why they might see it differently. And if he felt it was really important, why not invite her on his show and get her view and possibly engage in a civil discussion or maybe even a debate? Or he could leave it alone and say, hey, I don't know this person. This is an emotional topic for me. It might be for her as well. I'm just going to be an adult about this and mind my business and leave her alone. That also would have been a really good option for him to take. Pretty much anything would have been better than deciding, oh, I'm just going to put her on blast and attack her publicly, calling her a disgusting human, a terrorist, anti-Semite, get her banned by lying about her hosting a racial tier list against an anti-Semitic racial tier list, which was actually about hummus and included a Jewish person in the panel, and getting her mass reported and a host of other insults. He then took a similar but even more intense approach with Hassan, created an entire video with the express purpose of destroying his career and making him lose everything. Those are Ethan's own words. And took a similar approach to denims, not with a video, but with the verbal attacks. Ian and Anissa, he went after people on Reddit and Twitter that he didn't know at all in a similar way. He went after a man that ended his own life to draw attention to Gaza, Aaron Bushnell, rest in peace. And that was an especially disgusting and totally unprovoked, unwarranted attack. Ethan just seemed very upset that people were, quote, idolizing him when nobody was doing that. People were just reacting as you would think they would, sad and saying rest in peace, standard stuff, but also free Palestine, which Ethan really doesn't like. So either that or the fact that the guy was willing to sacrifice everything to draw attention to Gaza, I'm not sure what, but something really made Ethan mad, and he thought it was also funny to say, well, hey, at least this guy was really good at blanking alive. And fire, you can imagine what he said, blanking alive, also starting with a B. So this guy makes him mad, but he's also mocking the guy that died for Gaza. Okay, got it, Ethan. You are just a really great guy. It's just like iDubbbz pointed out in his video. Ethan and Hila have made their show and the internet their own personal emotional dumping grounds. And that emotional dump is full, and it is starting to stink. It is starting to reek real bad. And I really hope Ethan has some sort of realization soon that this style of existing on the internet is not sustainable. And I hope he goes back to having conversations and debates with people, or just staying with the goofs and gaffs, rather than this lying and attacking and threatening people with lawsuits just because they disagree with you, which, by the way, also signals weakness in your positions, because you're constantly just freaking out and on the defense and doing personal attacks. It makes you look really weak. But we can all improve, right? So let's do that. Thanks for watching. Yada dee dee doo da, da dee 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 da ba woo.